Today, I'm going to walk you through a guide that I would have made for myself if I had known better back 4 or 5 years ago when I first started this minimalist journey. So this very simplified guide is going to walk you through how to get started on your minimalist journey, how to begin decluttering, and how to then maintain and keep it decluttered. What I always like to say to people about minimalism is that it's one of those things that you can start slow, but starting slow is better than never starting at all. If I had known that back in the day, I wouldn't have felt so much pressure and anxiety to get rid of things quickly. I wish I had gone slower and really thought about what I was doing and done more research with what I was doing when it came to decluttering. But then again, I'm glad I started at all. If you are chasing after perfection when it comes to your decluttering journey, you're never going to get started. Don't worry about getting rid of the wrong thing. Don't worry so much about being perfect and having the right containers for the things you do end up keeping. Just get started. Something I am glad that I started with was my clothing. My clothing was a place that I felt a lot of autonomy, meaning that I could get rid of anything that I wanted without having to ask anybody else their opinions about what they thought. And I also didn't have as much attachment as some people do to clothing. When it comes to my brain and clothing, I was someone who liked to buy in bulk, lots and lots of items at a time, but because I had so much, I didn't ever put a lot of sentimental value on things or a lot of attachment to any of my clothing besides a small handful. So it was easy for me to get rid of a lot at a time with pretty minimal anxiety. But if that is not you, if that's not how you feel about your clothing, what I would say is start with a place that you have autonomy. You don't need to bring in maybe your partner or your husband or wife or your children, because that's going to add a whole nother layer of somebody else's opinions. That way you can start on your own to decide, where do you find value in your home? What kind of things are going to stay always, and what kind of things do you not have a lot of attachment to? The next thing that I would do once you've decided maybe a genre or area that you are ready to declutter is that I would do some research into maybe some games that you want to try, because games are going to help you and your brain to connect that decluttering is a fun activity. I recently just put out a video that has 50 things that you can declutter in your house today, room by room, so that you can have between 5 and 10 things that you automatically know that you can go through and declutter in every room if you're having a hard time getting started. But doing games like a box party, I've done that game before too. Doing things like the minimalist game or the 333 capsule wardrobe are all going to be great ways that you can learn how to declutter while also having a little more fun. The better you can make those connections in your brain that decluttering is a good thing and a healthy thing and a fun thing for me, the easier it's going to be for you to want to get started on that activity. If you enjoy learning about minimalism, please remember to subscribe. And of course, if you are on this minimalist journey with us, then throw a heart emoji down below and let us know that you are here together with us. So once you have found maybe a time and even a game that you want to try, I want you to start with your why. Write it down in your notebook and decide, why are you doing this? For me, I never wrote it down, and I think that's why it took me so long. My why was never clarified to me. I just knew that I felt lost, but writing it down would have made it concrete. So my why back then was that I had so much anxiety and overwhelm and depression every time I came into my house that I literally never wanted to come home. I would spend tons of money just so that I could stay out of my house. And so I knew that I couldn't go on anymore. I knew that something had to change. So now that why is very clarified, I've written it down many times in my notebook. It's much easier for me to maintain a life of minimalism than always reverting back to this cycle of decluttering and cluttering and buying more things and then having to declutter again. So create your why, and really write it down and cement it into your brain. So while you are playing the game, if you are really stuck on some things, I want you to ask yourself a few hard questions, like, if this object was to combust, disappear, what would I feel? Would I feel the need to immediately go out and buy it again? Is it something that I use all of the time and I really value it and need it? Or is it one of the objects that I've just been hanging on to because I had it? Just in case items that I happen to have around my house. And so why should I get rid of them? Well, that's when you go back to the reason why you are here in the first place, which maybe you are feeling overwhelmed and anxiety. So is this object helping with that? Is it helping your life on a daily basis? Or if it was to combust and disappear, would you feel relief? And also just knowing that everything in your house takes up space. I remember, I guess it was probably in middle school or elementary, learning about matter. And matter is something that takes up space. Everything that you bring into your home, it's going to matter to you because you're going to have to clean it. You're going to have to take care of it. You're going to have to watch it and make sure that it doesn't get ruined or messed up. And if it does get messed up and ruined, is it something that you're going to be able to fix? Or is it something that you're gonna then have to figure out what you're gonna do with it after that? Throw it away, recycle it. Is it still able to be donated? There are so many decisions that go into every object that you bring into your house that has stopped me. That question alone has stopped me so many times from bringing in unnecessary items. Knowing that I'm going to have to take care of it, knowing I'm going to have to find a space because it's matter, it takes up space. Then knowing that eventually down the line, what am I going to have to do with it? Am I going to have to do a big declutter all over again because I brought all these extra things into my home? So now that you have maybe a few trash bags full of decluttered items, let's decide whether you are going to recycle, donate, give away, sell these items. How are you going to get rid of them? The big ones that I would think about, if you have a lot of objects you are trying to get rid of, give them away, maybe to friends or family. Also think about just donating them. Is it pet things that you can give to the pet shelter? Are there things that you can just donate to the thrift store and get them out of your house as quickly as possible? Also think about recycling. If it is something that you know, like plastics or paper, that you know that can be recycled, go ahead and recycle them if they're just not something that's worth donating. But the very last thing that I would do besides just trashing it is selling it. And that is really, in all honesty, because I spent far too much of my life and my time trying to sell things when I first started. Now, if you absolutely have got to have the money because you're in a lot of debt or you need to save it for something, then look for things that are between 25, 50 or more. What you need to do is value your time. Think about this as a job because selling things, in all seriousness, takes up a lot of time between taking the pictures, posting it online in different platforms, different spaces, and then trying to figure out if that person is a real person or a pretend person who's trying to pull one over on you, which has happened even to me and people that I know, and trying to get the money from that person, haggling if they have to haggle for the price. I mean, the whole thing takes an extraordinary amount of time. So value that. And for me now, if I'm not going to get $50 or more for the object, I don't even worry about it. I'm going to let somebody else have it because my time is very valuable to me. If you cannot get $50 or more for it, depending on your budget, or if you also cannot get it sold within 2 to 3 weeks, I would just let it go. It's amazing the amount of value we put on our own things. But as the saying goes, you can't take it with you. Then maybe do a yard sale. But after that, go ahead and get rid of the rest of it. The yard sale, I promise you, I've had a few myself, will open up your eyes that your things do not hold that much value. All right, so now we are on to the last step. Once you've really started to declutter and you're taking it very seriously and you know that you do not want to reclutter your house, you're going to have to do a few things to stop yourself from buying. And those go down to a few ideas that I have used myself. Now, of course, I do feel like everyone should make a budget. And while I am not somebody who always every week sticks to a very strict budget, I do have a budget in mind of the amount of money I spend. And when I have months that maybe we go over, the next month I'll be much more strict about the budget. So it doesn't have to be something that every month or every week you are extremely strict, but you know how much you're allowed to spend each month. But when I first started out, you know what? I had a very strict budget. I had a certain amount of money I was personally only allowed to spend each week, and my husband had his own personal amount of money he was allowed to spend each week. And that was based on us doing a breakdown of our budget on every little thing that we spent money on. So first, go through whatever accounts you have, whether it is your credit card or your ATM account, your bank account. Do a checklist of everything, the things you have to do, like pay for where you live and your car, and things that you don't necessarily have to do. How much do you really need to drive? How much gas money do you really need? Or how much grocery money do you really need? Is there cuts that you can make in that so that you are maybe making more food at home as opposed to going out? There are lots of different ways that you can cut down on your budget, but that's definitely something I suggest doing when you are ready to get serious. But then on top of that, when you're in the store, there are so many things that have helped me to cut my shopping addiction. And when I say that, I don't say that lightly. I had a shopping addiction. I literally could not go in any store without feeling really awful when I walked out if I didn't have anything. How weird is that? I don't know if anyone else has ever felt that way, but what I used to do is if I went into a store and I looked for something and I couldn't find anything, which usually I did, but I couldn't find any treasures, I'd walk out and be like, that was such a waste of time. I can't believe I didn't find anything. Instead of being like, wow, it's great that I didn't take and bring home something that I didn't actually need, which is my mindset now. So something you can try as you are first starting out trying to not bring excess home is just don't go to your favorite stores. Things like Target or Walmart, those big stores that maybe you're thinking, I'm just going to go grocery shop in them. I wouldn't do that. I would stop yourself completely from going in those stores just for a little while. It doesn't have to be forever, but until you don't feel that urge to go in there so often, cut yourself off for a little while. But then after that, of course, eventually we do feel like or need to go in those kind of stores. So what I would do is if I found something I really liked but wasn't necessarily on my list, I would put it in my cart and then I would have to walk around the whole store before I would be able to buy it. So if I found it halfway through the store or I found it at the very end, if I wanted to take it, I had to do a whole nother lap. And that was just to give my brain some time to process if this was a need or a want, how much is this really worth to me, and calculate how much I make an hour and how much work I had to do in order to pay for this item. Then after I stopped doing that, actually I went on to just not getting a cart at all. If I knew I didn't have to get a big item, or if it wasn't the grocery store where I knew I was having to get a bunch of things, I just wouldn't get a cart. And that's something that I do now. I just never get a cart. Going to TJ Maxx, going to Home Goods, these kind of stores, if I'm going in with my mom, I'm not getting a cart. Because if I don't get a cart, it's going to, if it's a really big, expensive item, it's going to take me more time to then have to go back and get a cart, more effort. The more effort you can put in front of you, stopping you between the object and you paying for it, the more effort it's going to take, the more likely that you are not going to get it at all. Then something that I also played with a lot while I was really working on stopping myself from buying excess is that I would pick up something that I really liked, maybe at a thrift store, and I would hold it and then I would force myself to put it back. It was one of the hardest lessons that I had to teach myself, but also one of the most eye-opening lessons that I've ever gone through myself is I would have something in my hand. No, it wasn't on any kind of list. And I would put it back on the shelf. And then I would walk around the store and wait to see how long it took me to either forget it or to stop feeling that pressure to buy it, that need, that scarcity that somebody else is going to take something that I liked. And to be honest, at first it was really hard, but after even just a few weeks of trying that and not going back for it and not buying it, I realized that it became a lot easier. There were many things that I used to pick up and just take and buy and spend my money on that in the end, when I walked away, even within 5 minutes, I would forget what they were and move on to something else. All right, so to wrap it all up, you cannot force the people in your family to change their mindset. I am warning you about this one only because it's something that I did myself and I had to learn the hard way from. But actions speak louder than words. People are going to see that this is something that, one, is bringing you contentment. You are much more at peace when you have less things. They're going to watch you in your house decluttering your things, and they might even question, why are you getting rid of this? Or why do you feel the need to declutter? And you can explain these things to them. But on top of that, they're going to see that you are saving money and that you are just generally more at peace in your home. I know now my husband, whenever we go over to our friend's house or he'll go over to his friend's house, he'll come back and just be like, I really appreciate where our house is now. The level of ease that it takes in order to clean our house has allowed us to have these free weekends where we don't have to do hour-long cleaning sessions. It's not something that I would ever say my husband is going to be a minimalist, and I don't think my daughter will ever be a minimalist either. But when it comes to my daughter, I want to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, not just tell her she should value her things and tell her to take care of her things, but actually show her how to value your things that you do end up keeping and you do end up enjoying, and how to take care of them. I know that getting started in minimalism and really wanting and having the passion to move forward with this idea is powerful and big and exciting, but also kind of scary and nerve-wracking. But I know this guide can help you get started and keep the momentum going. If you enjoy learning about minimalism, please remember to subscribe. And of course, if you are on this minimalist journey with us, then throw a heart emoji down below and let us know that you are here together with us. All right, I'll see you guys again soon.